Hi, Ted Padova here. In this video, I want to talk about replacing backgrounds. You may have some photos that are a little bit distractive in terms of the background. You could have some photos that have a lot of underexposure or overexposure, or maybe you just want to change the background to a texture or a color. It's very easy to do with Photoshop Elements, and let's take a look at how we do that. The very first thing you want to do, obviously, if you have an image of a subject, is to make a good selection of the subject. And Photoshop Elements helps us out a lot with that by going to the Select menu and choose Subject. And using Adobe Sensei technology, you can see that this subject is selected very, very well here. We need a little polish on it, but that's very easy to do. I'm going to get my lasso tool over here. I've got an area down here. So if I hold my Shift key down to add to my selection, then press my Alt or Option, I can get a polygon lasso. You could use the polygon lasso tool, but I just like to use the keyboard shortcuts. And let's see, I think we've got an area up here. Let's zoom in. It's a good idea to zoom into your images. You can see that I've got an area here. Didn't quite get selected on the subject. So I'm going to subtract this from my selection, which is my subject. So I'll hold the Option or Alt key. I'll click, then release the key, and then press down again, and I get my polygon lasso tool again. Much easier to do it with the polygon lasso than to try to trace this if you're using a mouse. If you're using a tablet, maybe it might be a little easier. Okay, and let's take a look at moving around the subject here. You can see that we've got some imperfections. Once again, I'll get my lasso tool. That's Alt or Option, click, release the key, press it down again, and I'll get my polygon lasso tool, and we'll just make a selection here in this area. Move around. You can see I've got little artifacts over here that I can just take out. Once again, I'm just going to use the Option Alt key to delete from my selection. And we'll continue to go around. Got some area over here that I can take out. So once again, Alt Option. And we could use Refine Edge, but there's no hair on this subject, and there's no little small areas of the photo that needs to be selected. So just going around with the lasso tool is sufficient. I'll go to Fit in Window again, and at this point I'm going to add a layer mask. So I'll come up to the layer mask icon up here and click on Layer Mask, and there's my subject isolated without the background. Now you can see in the background here I've got a photo. If I want to use this photo as my backdrop for this subject, I can just get the Move tool and click and drag my background onto my image like so. Bring it down below my subject layer, and there we have it. Let's go ahead and close this document like so. And we can do several things here. Let's say we want to add a drop shadow. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a selection by holding the Control key down or the Command key on the Mac and click on the mask, and I select my subject. Now, if I create a new layer, I'm going to duplicate a layer of just the subject. So I'll hit Control or Command J, and I create a layer of the subject. And let's say I want to create a drop shadow. So what I'll do is move this layer down below. I want to make sure that I have it selected. Once again, Control or Command plus click. I get a selection. What I'm going to do is fill this black. With my foreground color selected, I can hold the Alt or the Option key down and press the Delete key, and it will fill it black. And let's go here. You can see that I've got it black. Now, the important thing here is to deselect your image, because if we blur, we want to make sure that blur gets feathered out. So I'm going to press Control or Command D to deselect. And then I'm going to add a blur amount. So let's go to Filter, Blur, and choose Gaussian Blur. And you can see I've got a relatively soft edge here. I might make it a little softer, like so. And click OK. Let's show our top layer, like so. And if I want to, I can just move this. I'll press the V key to get my move tool, then strike my right arrow key, and I'll move this shadow around, maybe down a little bit. And if I want to reduce the opacity here, I can do so. So this adds just a little bit of dimension. You see it's very soft, but adds a little dimension. Doesn't look quite as artificial. All right, let's go ahead and delete this layer, and we'll delete the background and talk about some other things we can do with changing backgrounds. If I come over to the bottom menu here where you see graphics with the plus symbol, click on graphics, and you can see that by default you have type selected in the first menu, and in the second menu you have a number of options over here, one of those being backgrounds. The nice thing about creating backgrounds or adding backgrounds to an image is they all get applied to the background. So for example, if I just click, you can see that it gets downloaded, and now it's a background. It's very nice. I come over to my layers panel, you can see that I have this layer here. So let me delete that. I don't really need to delete it if I want to explore backgrounds, but we'll just go back over to backgrounds here. You can see that I have quite a few different kinds of backgrounds. If I want to go to my layers panel and duplicate this background, hit Control J and then multiply, I can make it much darker. And I could duplicate it again to make it darker even yet. Or if I want to lighten it up, I can use the screen blend mode, like so. I'll delete several of these here. And we'll go back over to backgrounds and take a look at what else we have over here. A number of these have different kinds of patterns. So when you click on it, you can see that there's a pattern. You see that I've got a pattern here. So a number of great opportunities that you have with creating backgrounds from the graphics panel. You can also scan marble or tiles or whatever on a flatbed scanner and use those as textures. And you can also composite several images by adding backgrounds from other photos to your Photoshop Elements file where you've isolated the subject. And as you can see, you have some great opportunities with changing backgrounds and elements.